Good evening, everybody. Good evening. This is Attorney Augustus Corbett. Thank you for turning in to the Black Manifesto. We today want to say a very happy birthday to the Voting Rights Act of 1965. If my calculations are correct, the Voting Rights Act is 56 years old today. Now, let's hope that everything is sounding okay and looking okay. If so, we're going to take some time here to celebrate the Voting Rights Act of 1965 because it is so very important. You as an African American, me as an African American, and the African American community, we have seen some progress, some political, economical, social progress in large measure because of the Voting Rights Act. It is the reason why we have had a Black American president and we have a Black American female vice president. It is directly because of the Voting Rights Act. But I don't have to tell you that there's still much work to be done, a lot of work that still must be done. In fact, one of the things that I want to talk about today is how our enemies are trying to basically destroy the very law that we're celebrating today because our progress is frightening and fearful to them. And so they're trying to turn back the hands of time. So we want to celebrate the Voting Rights Act, but we not only want to celebrate the Voting Rights Act, we also want to put some pressure on Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to get this legislation enacted. We're going to talk about what that legislation is in just a moment. All right, now, where do I want to go from here? First thing I want to do is, before we get into the talking points today, is I want to encourage you to get my book, Education and Justice. It doesn't have a lot to do directly with voting rights, but it is indirectly all connected. Okay? Get a copy of my book. You can find it on Amazon.com, or you can order it directly from us by going to our website, which is educationandjustice.com. Educationandjustice.com. Or you can get it from Amazon.com, okay? The name of the book, again, is Education in Justice. And by the way, there are some pretty strong reviews and testimonials. I particularly appreciate this one that was given to me by the Journal of Negro Education. Professor Nicole Sullivan said this book should be a staple for teachers, counselors, and administrators, as well as parents, community leaders, and clergy. Man, let me say that again. She said that this book, Dr. Sullivan said this book should be a staple for teachers, counselors, and administrators, as well as parents, community leaders, and clergy. And that's coming from the Journal of Negro Education. I've never met Dr. Sullivan in my life, but I certainly appreciate that testimonial. And yes, education justice is real, raw, and relevant. This is Sean DeRoe, a financial guru, that I happen to know. And of course, my daughter says, my parents instilled in me and my brothers a fierce love of God and learning. We're the best proof of the validity of my dad's book. I appreciate both of them, all three of them, giving me that review for my book. All right. So the Voting Rights Act is 56 years old today. 56 years old today. I put this image up here because I want you to see. This image scares. It literally scares many white people to death. This image right here, a black man voting, scares them. I'm telling you, it puts fear in their hearts. They'd rather see this black man standing behind a table in the courtroom or behind bars in a prison cell, but whatever, not behind a ballot box. So they are doing and have done over the years everything imaginable, from lynching to murdering to killing to raping to beatings, everything that you can imagine, because they don't like this image. A black man and black people voting. And they continue to fight that even to this day. They continue to fight black men voting even to this day. It's one of the reasons why they have so criminalized so many different things, because we know that pursuant to the 13th Amendment, it abolished slavery, but at the same time, it enables the government to strip people of their civil rights, including the right to vote, if someone is convicted of a felony. So they have done everything they can to, I want you to see it again, to get rid of this image here. All right? Now, I want to talk a little bit about the problem and the solution as we talk about voting rights. Okay? What is the problem? The problem are two cases, two U.S. Supreme Court cases, Shelby County versus Holder and Brnovich versus the Democratic National, Democratic National Convention. It says DNS. I think it should be DNC. Okay? Two cases that attacked the Voting Rights Act. The first case, Shelby County, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about it. I've done many videos talking about it already. I just want you to know that the Shelby County case basically got rid of the pre-clearance requirement. The pre-clearance requirement required certain states to get pre-approval before they made any changes to their voting laws. And in 2013, the U.S. Supreme Court essentially got rid of that requirement. Okay? So the Voting Rights Act was from that point on weakened considerably. And then in this past year, I think, July, just last month, another case was handed down by the U.S. Supreme Court, and it further weakened the Voting Rights Act, and it's Brnovich versus the DNC. And it weakened the Voting Rights Act for a second reason. The first reason, again, the Shelby County case, it got rid of that pre-clearance requirement. So states, those southern states that had a reputation, a history, and legacy of implementing voter suppression laws, they had to get approval from the Department of Justice before they could do anything with their voting laws. That was done away with pursuant to the Shelby County case. And what happened is that left Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, upon which states could still be sued if they, obstructed people's rights to vote. Well, the U.S. Supreme Court came and weakened Section 2. So first they got rid of Section 4, which again did away with, abolished the pre-clearance requirement. And then it gutted Section 2. So the Voting Rights Act now is pretty much a walking dead man, if you will. Yet we celebrate it because there is still hope for the Voting Rights Act. What is that hope? That hope is the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. The John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. If the United States Senate will vote yes on the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, then it would restore the main provisions of the Voting Rights Act. And once again, those states and probably several others will need to get pre-clearance before they could before they could do things like close Sunday voting or have some strenuous voter ID laws, or before they would remove ballot boxes. They would have to get pre-clearance for all of that. Well, if we can get the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act passed, then the Voting Rights Act would be restored. And that is the reason why, quite frankly, I threw my support behind Joe Biden. Joe Biden was elected by many black people to get this done, and he is dragging his feet. He is putting up all kinds of excuses. He's putting other things before our right to vote. He's putting the infrastructure bill. He's putting, other things, gay rights, transgender rights, all of these things he's giving priority. But he's putting Voting Rights Act at the bottom of his priority list. And he's making a serious mistake, because many of us voted for him for that reason, for that specific reason. And he needs to keep his word. He needs to do what we sent him to D.C. to do. Okay? Now, in order for him to do it, he's going to have to lead the way in getting the filibuster abolished, at least with respect to voting rights. Even if he doesn't want to completely abolish the filibuster because of his fear that once the Republicans get back in the majority, they can do pretty much anything they want to do. That's a reasonable concern. I get that. But the filibuster doesn't have to be completely abolished. It can be abolished with respect to voting rights, if nothing else. And that's what we want him to do. Put your considerable pressure and power as the President of the United States of America on Joe Manchin and Senator Sinema from Arizona, and make them support amending the filibuster rule. It's just a rule. It's not even a constitutional law. It's not even a part of it's just a Senate procedural rule. Change it to protect our right to vote, Mr. Biden. And we got to put pressure on him. We can't let him just get away with this, you all. We got to pressure him. We got to put the pressure on him until he puts the pressure on Joe Manchin of West Virginia, the senator who's holding out on some theory that he's trying to get bipartisan support. And we know that Republicans will never, ever support the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. We know that. So stop playing games, Joe Manchin and Joe Biden, and get this done. Get it done. All right? Get it done. That's the way we need to feel about this. This is the type of energy we need to have about this. We need to get it done. If we be quiet, if we take it lying down, he's going to walk over us. Joe Biden is going. You know why? Because he's a politician and he's looking at the polls. He's looking at various things and he's saying, I don't want, in fact, he said it. I don't want to, kind of push this issue because then it may blow up the Senate. Blow up the Senate. Blow it up if it's necessary to protect black voter rights. All right. So while we celebrate the the Voting Rights Act. We also lament what has been done to the Voting Rights Act, and we need to become engaged to protect it before our enemies completely, totally gut it. Now, we know that our enemies are busy in the state legislatures passing all kind of voter suppression laws. The solution for that is the For the People Act, another piece of legislation that is stuck in the Senate. And that needs the filibuster to be amended or repealed. I don't care if it's abolished, quite frankly, to get the For the People Act as well. So you understand, the For the People Act will undo all the voter suppression laws that we see these states having enacted over the past few months, especially since Joe Biden was elected to office, much of it based on this big lie of Donald Trump that the election was stolen from him. Okay. On the other hand, the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, it will reestablish the Voting Rights Act of 1965. We need to get that done. We need to make Joe Biden make that happen. Now, let me talk about one other subject, and I'm going to let you go on this Friday afternoon, this Friday evening, so you can enjoy this with your family. Be safe out there, though. The Delta variant is out there, and it's out there spreading big time. So be safe. Wear your mask. Get vaccinated. All of that. Now, I want to talk to you about one more issue before I let you go. And this is really an issue that directly affects the state of Texas, but it indirectly affects a lot of other states in this country. All right. Kids here are going to be going back to school in just a little while. One of the things that has happened since they were out of school is the passage of a law here in Texas that pretty much prohibits the teaching of racism and slavery in social studies classes. It is an omnibus law. It is an awful law. It is a lie. It is a law that protects lies. It is a law that prohibits truth telling. And I want to show you a little bit about why this law is such a bad law for the state of Texas. And the reason I say it indirectly affects other states is because since Texas is so large, oftentimes the books that are printed here also tend to become books in a lot of other states. So since this law has been passed, books are going to be written, social studies books, history books are going to be written that will, again, include the language or the policies, put it that way, of this law that I'm getting ready to show you. And so it's going to reverberate throughout the country. All right, let me see if I can pull this law up on the screen. Here it is. I just called it the Texas New Teaching Law. Here's what it says. Here's some of the parts that are really troubling. A teacher, administrator, or other employee of a state agency, school district, or open enrollment charter school may not be required to engage in training, orientation, or therapy that presents any form of race or sex stereotyping or blame on the basis of race or sex. That kind of sounds okay, right? No racial stereotyping. But when they talk about race blaming, we know what they're talking about. And by the way, all of this centers around this whole debate on critical race theory. That's what got whites in an uproar and got them to support this law, because the powers to be knew they needed to find some kind of, whipping horse, and critical race theory became the whipping horse to gin up a mob mentality. And so they started going out to the school board meetings and critical race theory this, critical race, even some black folks participated in this, critical race theory that, and most of them don't even know what critical race theory means. But this is how this was able to get passed, and because a lot of, these states are controlled by Republican majorities. Okay, let's keep reading. One race or sex is inherently superior to another race or sex. That's really good. So I guess they finally got it, okay? Because this is what they've been teaching all these years, that the white race is superior. So now they have in here that no race should be taught as being the superior race, finally, okay? So good on that one. Goes on to say, an individual, by virtue of the individual's race or sex, is inherently racist, sexist, or oppressive, whether consciously or unconsciously. So this is getting at, again, what they believe are tenets of critical race theory. Critical race theory does, in fact, teach that America is definitely racist. It is systemically racist. But critical race theory does not teach that every white person is racist. The ideal is that the systems of America are racist. The education system, the criminal justice system, those systems, the healthcare system, we know they're racist. That is not even debatable. So no one is saying every individual white person is racist. We all know and love many white people. I mean, we know that not all white people are racist. Many white people are involved in fighting for social justice and racial justice. That is not what critical race theory teaches. Again, it teaches that the systems of America, the institutions, the structure of America is racist. But they use the critical race theory whipping horse or whipping board to get these laws, get this passed. All right, let's keep reading. An individual should be discriminated against or receive adverse treatment solely or partly because of the individual's race. Well, good. They finally got that. Okay? Finally, they should have been had that in the social studies books. Why hasn't it been? Because, again, we know that systems in America and some white individuals are extremely racist toward black folks. So now they're beginning to teach it. So I'm okay with most of what we read, but keep reading. Keep reading. All right, let's go to the next slide here. All right, I'm sorry here. Something looked like it went wrong, but let me see. We can fix it. In fact, I can read the rest of it. I think I got it up here somewhere. Hold on with me. Hold on. I could just recite it to you, but I want you to actually read it with me. So I'm just going to go ahead and just fix it. I'm going to fix it if you just be patient with me. You see, I'm doing this while at the same time being my own producer. So let's see if I fixed it. Let's see. Bam, there we go. Got it. All right, so here it goes. Goes on to say, members of one race or sex cannot and should not attempt to treat others without respect to race or sex. Well, once again, that's good. Okay? What took you so long? All right? That is really, really good. All right, let's see what else it says. An individual moral character, standing, or worth is necessarily determined by the individual's race. All well and good. Good stuff. An individual by virtue of the individual's race or sex. Now, here's where the junk comes in. An individual by virtue of the individual's race or sex bears responsibility for actions committed in the past by other members of the same race or sex. Now, did you catch that? Let's read it again in case you didn't catch that. An individual, by virtue of the individual's race or sex, bears responsibility for actions committed in the past by other members of the same race or sex. Now, they don't want to bear responsibility for what members of their race did in the past, but they certainly want to hold on to the benefits of what members of their race did in the past. Okay? So no teaching that a member of a race is responsible for what their forefathers did. Don't put the responsibility on this current generation. But this current generation definitely want to maintain and hold on to all the benefits that came from enslaving Black Americans and forcing them to work for nothing. Okay? We don't teach our children that they bear responsibility for that, but we want to continue to enjoy the privileges and the power and the money that was made from that. It's the very reason why white Americans have 10 to 12% more wealth than Black Americans because of the systemic racism that was implemented in this country over 400 and some years. And that still continues. But the teachers can't teach on that. Okay, let's look at another provision here. And that an individual should feel discomfort, guilt, anguish, or any other form of psychological distress on account of the individual's race or sex. Look at that. So in other words, don't make the children feel guilty. Don't make them feel discomfort talking about racism in the classroom. That's going to make our children feel bad about what their forefathers did to Black people. So don't mention that. You can't teach that. You can't talk about that. Okay? You can talk about every other kind of thing, but you can't talk about that. Are you with me? See, this is just not dealing in truth and honesty. I mean, some people should feel discomfort, guilt, and shame for sins that was committed by their forefathers. So hopefully they won't perpetuate those same sins and wrongs and harms that were done. I mean, by not teaching it, by not remembering what has happened, essentially, you're opening the door for it to continue to happen. So that's what the Texas legislature has been able to get done here in Texas. So when school starts, whenever school starts, September 1, 2021, teachers can no longer teach something that makes white children feel discomfort or makes them feel bad about what their forefathers did. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Goes on to say that meritocracy or traits such as hard work ethic are racist or sexist, or were created by members of a particular race to oppress members of another race. That is a real head scratcher. And it is just dripping with hypocrisy. Okay? For these folks to say here that meritocracy or traits such as hard work ethic are racist or sexist, as if to say that black people or teachers are going to teach that hard work is racist. That, in other words, black folks think that hard work is racist, or that meritocracy is racist. In other words, that you get what you earn. You get what you merit. In other words, black folks think that to be made to work hard is racist. Now, why is that hypocrisy? Because it's coming from the people who enslaved another race of people because they didn't want to do their own work. Do you follow me? The nerve of these people to insinuate that we believe hard work is racist or that meritocracy is racist, coming from the people who enslaved other people and forced those people to be out in the fields working while they were up at the house under the shade drinking lemonade. I mean, give me a break. Seriously? I grew up in the South, in the country, and every black man I knew worked hard. Starting with my father, I had a picture of him. I wish I could grab it quickly. My father worked until he was 75 years old. My daddy worked outside, had a 3rd grade education. He would leave home at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. He would get back home 6 and 7 o'clock in the evening, having worked all day long and many times 6 days a week. He would get there. When he passed, the company that he was still working for, the lady told me that he would get there before she got there. That's what these black men knew was hard work. That's all they could do. Most of them were denied education. And so they had to get out there and work in the fields and in the mills and on the streets out there and, on the roads and on the railroads and all these places in the warehouses doing the back-breaking work. The nerve of these people to talk about we think it's racist to do hard work. That's all we've ever done. Same is true with my father-in-law. Both of them are gone on now, and they're with the Lord. Pap Battle, Oscar Corbett, my father. Pap Battle, my father-in-law, worked 30-something years. You should see the place that he worked. He would walk up a ladder that was probably 100 feet in the air, carrying a big thing of cement, taking it up and bringing it back down. Did that over 30-something years to feed his family and to put a roof over my wife's head and his wife and their son. All the men that I grew up around worked hard. Even them, some of them had, they would drink on the weekends, but they worked like a dog during the weekdays. Come on. And for these people to put in here to insinuate that black people think it's racist to work hard is offensive, it's insulting, and it's very hypocritical. Coming from the people who wouldn't even do their own work and still don't want to do their work because now they got a lot of folks from the south coming up from the southern border doing their work. Give me a break. Give me a break. Give me a break. This is stupid. Wow. So I wanted to come and share this with you about the Voting Rights Act. Today is the 56th anniversary, if my math is correct, of the Voting Rights Act. It's barely hanging in there, but it's hanging in there. And we need to get Joe Biden and force him to give the Voting Rights Act new life by abolishing or amending the filibuster so that the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act will be passed, as well as the For the People Act. And this Texas education law is horrendous. It's offensive, insulting, and hypocritical. So I wanted to share that with you. I am Attorney and Reverend Augustus Corbett. I appreciate you tuning in with me today for a few minutes. I hope it didn't hold you too long. You still got plenty of time to go and enjoy your Friday afternoon. All right? Again, thank you for tuning in. Peace. Bye.